the government is shut down. Mike Johnson keeps going on TV to talk about why it is that it's the Democrats' fault. But this one talking point that they continue to have, they think if they focus it maybe on someone like AOC and how she's pushed back on their lies, this is the same lines that they use on AOC every time.
And I know this will be shocking to your viewers, but AOC has not read the legislation that her party filed, okay? It's page 57, section 2141. You can pull it, go to speaker.gov. I made it easy. It's right there for you. You can see the bill they filed would 100% restore health care paid for by taxpayer dollars to illegal aliens. The calculation is about $200 billion. She hasn't read the legislation, and I'm not sure she would understand it even if she did. Now, the subsidy thing she's talking about is not even an issue of today. It is a end-of-the-year funding matter. That funding expires December 31st.
Yeah.
In December. It's a red herring. They're trying to make that part of the issue of the stopgap funding measure, and it's apples to oranges. I'm not even honestly sure if AOC understands that. She says it with such passion, but she is so wrong on literally everything she just said there.
This is the, age-old Republican approach to then go after whichever woman that they've targeted and called the dumb one 3 times in like a minute's worth of talking. Mike Johnson, his next ploy, the next strategy, which is honestly an old strategy, is to keep saying, well, AOC's too stupid. AOC doesn't know how to read. AOC didn't figure out what it is that we're saying because, we're the superior race. We're the superior gender. We're the folks who know what this is that's in this, but at the same time, the smarter person who graduated much higher and with the degrees that you don't have doesn't know anything. So I went to it. He talked about go to speaker.gov and you'll see the language that I'm talking about that proves my point about how the Democrats are the ones shutting this whole thing down and prove that they're going after healthcare. I mean, that we're saving healthcare and Democrats want to give it to a bunch of illegals. This is what's on this fool's page. It says Democrats dirty CR. It's almost like it's partisan or something. It says the Democrats' so-called government funding bill is a $1.5 trillion wish list of partisan spending demands tacked onto a 4-week funding bill. Buried on, as he pointed out in that interview, page 57, section 2141, the Democrat CR bill repeals the Working Families Tax Cut Bill's new safeguards against waste, fraud, and abuse in healthcare spending to restore and continue $200 billion in American taxpayer-funded healthcare subsidies going to illegal aliens. That's not proof of what you're saying. That's just someone writing down what is the talking point is that you keep going on TV to say.
They want to spend $1.5 trillion and they want to return hard-working taxpayer dollars to fund health care for illegal aliens. Yeah. It is in their bill. Go to speaker.gov and see it for yourself. Page 57, section 2141. They're using this for political games, and it is shameful, and real people are getting hurt.
I have looked at that text. It doesn't explicitly say what you are indicating, but unauthorized immigrants aren't eligible for ACA benefits.
Yes, it does. It says very simply they want to repeal the changes that we made in the Working Families Tax Cut, the One Big Beautiful Bill. And what those changes were is it removed health care going to illegal aliens. It removed all the fraud, waste, and abuse. And the Congressional Budget Office, CBO, said it achieved the desired result. They project it'll save almost $200 billion. Chuck Schumer's proposal on page 57 wants to return that $200 billion of taxpayer funds to pay for illegal aliens and other non-citizens. That is a fact. And you can check it out on my website, speaker.gov. Don't trust me. Look at Chuck Schumer's own paperwork.
Mike Johnson speaks in terms where he eliminates so much other information. That's why they need the dumbing down of America. That's why they need fewer people knowing how any of this works. And honestly, who has the time to read into all these things with this bill? Because he posted a link to that whole section of the bill, but he didn't post the thousands of pages for the whole bill where they're destroying people's lives, taking resources from so many different folks, and then saying that they're putting all this in and eliminating healthcare for illegals. How about we dig into that? This is where it's harder for folks to, first off, hear a 1-minute soundbite from Mike Johnson and then repeat it from Newsmax to CBS to Fox News to ABC and then to NBC and say the same damn thing over and over and over again. And you never actually look into what it is that's behind what he claims to be 1.4 million illegals being kicked off of Medicaid. So let me tell you, it's a House-passed reconciliation bill. It would reduce federal funding to states that provide state-funded health insurance to people in the U.S. illegally, resulting in that $1.4 million number of people losing coverage. That's according to a preliminary Congressional Budget Office analysis. But President Donald Trump and Republican lawmakers have wrongly cast the bill as removing these immigrants from Medicaid. Here's why. Medicaid is a joint federal-state government program that provides health coverage for low-income individuals and families. Most of us know that. People living in the U.S. illegally are not eligible to receive Medicaid benefits other than for emergency medical services. Pause for a second. This is what I was talking about maybe late last week. These emergency medical services from, like, say, ER rooms that get this funding for undocumented immigrants that then show up bleeding out, potentially about to die, and then some of those funds go to them. It accounts for under 1% of Medicaid funding. Just so we know the numbers that we're talking about. Continuing on, quote, a state-funded program is by definition not Medicaid. That's what Leonardo Cuello, who's a research professor at the Georgetown University McCourt School of Public Policy Center for Children and Families, said in an email. Kind of like an expert, someone who studies these things. Here's more information. The Senate Republicans' account on X wrongly claimed in a May 20 post that the bill protects Medicaid for eligible Americans by removing those 1.4 million illegals. That was a day after the White House press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, also inaccurately claimed that under the bill, the 1.4 million illegal aliens who are currently improperly receiving Medicaid benefits will be kicked off the program to preserve it for hardworking American citizens who need it. The point here is that Mike Johnson keeps saying it, Caroline Leavitt keeps saying it, Donald Trump keeps saying it. It's propaganda. And after the House narrowly passed the bill early on May 22nd with only Republican votes, House Speaker Mike Johnson claimed that Democrats voting against the bill showed that they wanted Medicaid for illegal immigrants. That's how Mike Johnson weaves this whole lie. So you create a falsehood. Then when people vote against your falsehood and your false characterizations of what's happening, you say what they're doing is adding to a problem that you made up. That's how liars work. The 1.4 million includes people without verified citizenship, nationality, or satisfactory immigration status. Those individuals are presumed to lose their state-provided health benefits because the House bill uses language penalizing states that provide, quote, any form of financial assistance for health coverage or any form of comprehensive health benefits to immigrants living in the country illegally, regardless of the source of funding. So they're going to punish states if they use any state funding to help out folks that are here undocumented. So for those states, the bill proposes reducing from 90% to 80%. That's a 10% difference, in case you guys, 90 to 80. A 10% difference that the federal medical assistance percentage rate that the federal government is required to pay states that expanded Medicaid for eligible individuals under the ACA. So the CBO analysis assumes that at least some states, deterred by reduced federal payments for their Medicaid programs, would stop offering their state-funded health programs to immigrants without lawful immigration status, which will leave more than 1 million of them uninsured. It's based off of an assumption that this 10% difference of the federal supplement of Medicaid funding to these states that use their own funding to help whichever ones these states may be, that suddenly all 1.4 million of folks that potentially get some kind of ER life-saving treatment that aren't on full Medicaid, that suddenly all those folks would be gone. And if you vote against their bill, that means that you're on board for 1.4 million undocumented illegals to be raiding our Medicaid system. You see how the lie works? Here's the last slide. Medicaid is when a state is accepting federal Medicaid dollars in compliance with federal Medicaid coverage rules. That's what that same Georgetown professor said. So the bill's provisions aren't about Medicaid. And of course, undocumented immigrants are also not eligible for comprehensive coverage in Medicaid. The Health Policy Research Group, KFF, said as of April, there were 14 states plus the District of Columbia that use state taxpayer money, not federal funds, to cover children regardless of immigration status, including 7 states and DC that also cover some adults regardless of immigration status. So there are not millions of undocumented people losing Medicaid coverage because of this bill, since they don't have comprehensive coverage under Medicaid to begin with, and the very limited emergency Medicaid coverage that under 1% that I talked about provided to immigrants is not changed under this bill. People don't have enough time to read into it and then look at the analysis of what's in the bill, what is it they're lying to you about, but they'll tell the lie over and over and over again. The next time someone mentions the 1.4 million illegals that are being booted off our Medicaid programs, it means that they don't know what they're talking about, or they do know what they're talking about, and what they're talking about are lies. So I'm going to show you guys a little bit more of Mike Johnson's unraveling.
So they created a red herring. A red herring is a distraction. They decided that they would pick a fight on health care. Well, let me look right into the camera and tell you very clearly, Republicans are the ones concerned about health care. Republicans are the party working around the clock every day to fix health care. This is not talking points for us. We've done it. A big part of the One Big Beautiful Bill, the Working Families Tax Cut, was to fix health care. Health care is broken in America. It's too expensive. The quality of care needs to rise. We need more access for more people, and we have lots of ideas to do that. But that issue is for debate in the next 3 months. It always was. We have members working on that.
Let me look right into the camera, and somehow that'll be convincing enough. They're out of ideas. The debate is lost. So if you pay attention to what they're talking about, let's have debate. The debate is continued to be had, and people, you're losing that debate. That's why then it turns into, let me look into the camera. And I promise you, it's us that are working on it. It's always us that's been working on it. As a matter of fact, we should be having this debate later about us taking healthcare from people. We've been having this debate, and you guys steamrolled by it and said that you're lying and said that Donald Trump can do whatever the hell he wants because he's the king of the country. There's no debates happening. There's no negotiations happening. So if Democrats fold and allow them to continue running roughshod over this country and allow them to continue to take this healthcare away from folks under this guise of illegals taking it from you, there's going to be no debate in 3 months. They're going to say, thank you very much. We're going to continue down this same path that we've been pushing for ever since this guy got into office. But Mike Johnson's solution is to go, believe me, that's a con man right there. That's a liar. That's a fake Christian. So let me wrap up this whole thing, because it started with AOC and Mike Johnson. You know, that's the approach. That's the thing that they figure. They need a new boogeyman. They need the same old boogeyman. The main thing that is that she's a dumb woman.